All right, folks, thanks for being here. Week number 2. We're going to open it up with Dogsbury, WBNS.
Coach, you said you wanted to be the hardest working team in America, and leave no doubt just that you analyzed it. How did the guys perform in your mind? Was it a winning performance other than winning the game?
Right. I think after the game, we celebrated the champions, the guys who graded out. And, there were guys who did. And so those guys got to continue to enhance as the challenges get bigger. And then there were guys who weren't. And, when that happens, you got to identify what it was that, didn't allow you to become a champion. Why didn't you grade out? Was it, somewhere in your process, it's feedback on how your week went, whether it was the preparation, whether it was the meetings, the walkthrough, the practice, where you were in terms of understanding the game, being in the moment, not getting caught up in the moment. There's a lot of things to identify what it was. And now in week 2, the guys who didn't, have to make those adjustments and grow. The effort, across the board was solid. We got a long way to go here, and we want to keep pushing. And there certainly were some great clips. I think you guys saw some of that on Saturday, but we're nowhere where we need to be. We got to keep building. It's a long season, and so we'll get back to work today.
Far left, Joe Nugent, WCMH.
Do you have a feel on if Cody or Donovan might be returning this week?
Yeah, they're day-to-day right now. We're going to see how today goes, but, had a good weekend, and we're going to list them as day-to-day.
Front row, Dave Biddle, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, how did everything go with the helmet communications, and just what do you think of that new process?
Yeah, it's different. It's different. You can see a lot more teams are huddling in week 1, which, I thought would be the case. It was good. But there's still an element of the no huddle that everyone's using. So there's a kind of a hybrid, I think, of some people using it and some people still signaling and doing those things based on who you're playing. But I think it's a great thing for college football, and we're all adapting. I thought it went well in week 1.
Fourth row middle, Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, after the game, you mentioned metrics that you guys want to hit for the playoff. I don't know if you brought that up before. I don't know if you want to go into detail on what those are, but what are you looking at, and why is this year when you're kind of focusing on those type of things?
Well, when you look at what the CFP looks at in terms of your ranking now, I think every little bit is going to matter. So whether you're a top 4 team or 5, 6, 7, or 8. You want to do everything you can to put yourself in best position possible moving forward. So, there's things that come into play there. And so there's going to be a lot more discussion, I think, around, 1 through 12 than maybe there was 1 through 4 when there was, only 4 teams that made it. Now, when you're talking about 1 through 12, there's a lot more conversation. And I think, certainly we, control our own destiny in terms of, every game that we play, and we're going to do that. But I just want to make sure that guys know that when they're going in towards the end of the game, like every rep matters. Why? Well, here's an example of why. And so that's the way we're going to approach every game.
Andy Backstrom, fourth row, Letterman row.
Yeah, Ryan, with having a chance to watch back the film, how are you feeling about the blocking? I know you're looking for more explosion in the run game long term. Where is that right now, and how much does perimeter blocking kind of factor into that equation?
Yeah, it definitely plays into it. There was good snaps. There was some plays that we got to the perimeter. We didn't quite make that guy miss a couple times, and there was some other times where there was one in particular into the boundary. We pulled around. We didn't quite identify the backer that we had. There was a handful of things there. So yeah, we're looking to be more explosive, and everybody's got to own it. Everyone's got to be a part of it. There were some good things as the game went on, but I've got to see more improvement in week 2.
Right behind him, Cameron T. Robinson, The Athletic.
Brian, you talked about trying to be more explosive in the punt return game. Obviously, Brandon did a really good job with that on Saturday. There's times in the past where maybe he would punt return, maybe lets one of those go or fall, fair catch that. Is that an idea of you guys being more aggressive, like trying to consciously be more aggressive in the punt return game?
Yeah, we worked hard in this offseason on special teams. I think I shared with you that each of the coaches now own it, and Rob Keys is overseeing it, and I'm a big part of it on a daily basis now. And one of the studies that we did was, every time the ball hits the ground on a turf field, there's, an average of like 10 yards a roll there. So, we want to make sure that we're aggressive in fielding those punts. At the same time, we can't be foolish, because some of those punts, you put yourself at risk of a fumble. So the first thing we got to do is get the ball back. That's number one. Second thing we're trying to do is field it. Again, especially on a turf field when that ball can really roll. You've seen some really poor punts just kind of take off on the turf. And so we tried to eliminate those. We think that those are, well, Brandon Ennis's example, a couple of those on Saturday, in particular, the one that he returned, it was rolling down probably inside the 10-yard line. He stopped it and then returned it back. That was probably 3 or 4 first downs on offense. It's a big deal. So we're trying to educate our guys. We're also going to be sound to make sure that we get the ball back and win the turnover battle.
Second row right, Bill Landis, Kings of the North, and the podcast.
Ryan, Will has, I think, half of the scramble yards now with you guys that he had last year at Kansas State, because he had that one play where he got like 19 yards. Scrambling to kind of like extend plays, I don't know if he did that a ton at Kansas State. I know he had a lot of designed runs, but did he show you guys anything in this offseason, whether that's changing his body or just, I don't know, different mentality where he's going to do more to be a little bit more of a playmaker in those situations when plays do break down?
Well, he can, because he's big in the pocket, but he also has speed that once he gets going, you can see that he can hurt you with his feet. And I think that's when you look back on what Justin Fields did a great job of was that he would extend plays on third down, and when you can steal a couple third downs in a game with scrambles, that makes a huge difference. It changes how the defense plays against you, and you can extend plays, which allows receivers to get open longer. So I think he's going to be in a little bit more of a drop back situation here than maybe previously. So he's going to have those opportunities, but he also has to make good decisions when he's doing that. The play at the end of the half really put the ball in jeopardy. That was a really poor decision. And so, that's a part of it. You got to take care of the football, and having two hands in the pocket, making good decisions when it's time to throw it away. I thought he did a nice job in one of them in particular where he did throw it away. There was another one, I think he kind of scrambled on a play like around the 25-yard line. He came back, ended up throwing it away. In that moment there, maybe try to scramble a little bit more. You can't come up with every scenario that can come up. He's got to go play football and get a feel for it. But, for the first game out there, I think he looked like he had some confidence. He was moving around with a purpose and discernment in his decisions. So that was good. But, we got to build on it now.
Tony Gurdman, Buckeye Huddle.
Right now, do you assess the tight ends, G, Will, Jelani, after taking a look at everything?
Yeah, I thought they, as a group, blocked well, and I think we had two champions there, and there's going to be more production coming out of the room moving forward, but they did a nice job, and so now we got to keep building on that as well. Couple really good effort clips, in particular Will Kazmarek on one play. Blocked his man about 7 yards downfield and pancaked him. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for that type of intensity, that type of finish. And, they're going to be very much involved in the pass game as well.
Jelani continuing to just
Yeah, that was a big day for Jelani. He needs to just play and play through, some of his inexperience. There's going to be mistakes made. There was the penalty that we had where he wasn't on the ball, and there's a couple of things we have to play through. But I think it was good for him to get that game under his belt. There's a lot of potential there, and the more he plays, the better off he's going to be.
Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Just to follow up, earlier this year when we were talking with you about Will Howard, and you mentioned this with Justin Fields back when he first got here, you almost told him he's not allowed to run. He has to stand in there, and he has to learn how to operate back there. And maybe Will showed up with that ability. For starters, when did you start to get comfortable with the Justin playmaking, trusting him more to do that, but also not make mistakes, and also applying that to Will Howard as an older guy? Did he come in already with that trust because he is older and has been through it before?
Yeah, I think every quarterback is different. They, have their eyes are down the field, feeling the pocket. What kind of you try to figure out, how they are at that. I think Will, first off, he's tall, so he can see over the line. I think sometimes when you're 6'3" or south of that, it gets a little bit more difficult. But he also has poise in there, and you can just see that in practice. So again, that's the art of playing quarterback. You don't always know exactly how it's going to shake out or when it's time to scramble. There's so many different variables, but he has played. He's got experience. So I think that all helps with this decision making right now. And, we'll keep building on it and grow. And the more comfortable he is in the offense and what we do and how teams are going to play us here in this conference, I think the better he's going to be.
Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
In particular, with Tegra and Austin having 2 first-time guards there, how much do you think that affected the way that you guys were able to run that first half?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we expect to go out there and score every time we touch the ball and run the ball well. So, we're not in the excuse-making business. So, those guys got to go out and play really, really well. That's what we expect. And, we're at Ohio State, so let's go. But I'm predicting that this week they have a really good week of practice and they keep growing from it and they build from it and they have a point of reference moving forward.
Jeremy Birmingham, the podcast.
Ryan, untrained eye, it looked like Arvell Reese really kind of popped a lot when he was out there, and then there were other linebackers that are obviously, it's a whole group of guys playing for the first time, really. When you see Arvell go out there and look that natural and look like he belongs like that, what does it say about that position moving forward? How do you see the rotation moving forward? What do you expect?
Well, the way that Arvell played, he deserves more reps, but I think it has to do with his preparation. And there was a moment last week where his preparation was just okay, and then there was a point in the week where he really dug in and did a really good job with his preparation. I think Jim and James would tell you the same thing, and I think that allowed him to play fast. So. That's a big part of playing linebacker. There's just a lot that comes with it. I mean, I review their tips and their test every week, and there's a lot in that packet. So he had to prepare at a high level, and once you do that, then the game can slow down for you. And so if he continues to do that, you see the athletic ability. I mean, and the strain. That's what I like the most. I mean, some of those reps that he had. I mean, he's going as hard as he possibly can from point A to point B, and we can build on that. I mean, any coach in America would love to have somebody like that. So. If he keeps going like that and keeps with his preparation, then he's going to keep building.
I mean, there was 5 guys who'd never played before, really, a linebacker. What was your biggest plus? What was the area that you had the biggest concern?
I liked. It seemed to me like they played hard. And I thought, Sonny moving positions here, a week within or a week and a half. Of playing in the season, he handled that very well. I thought his communication was good. He got everybody on the same page, and so that was good. I just think there needs to be overall consistency. It needs to be, each guy has their own thing they need to work on, and I know James is working on that.
Adam King, WBNS.
Coach, Chip up in the box, your first game really since you've been here that you weren't leading the play calling. How did that go down there for you? Yeah,
it was good. Again, Chip had his mindset on what he wanted to get done in this game, and it was a start. Long way to go, but no, overall the calls came in quickly, and I thought overall that part was good. We still want to be clean across the board. I think we can be cleaner across the board. A couple little penalties here and there that we got to clean up, but and again, still same thing, efficiency. I think we can get in and out of huddle faster. We can get just sharper in everything that we're doing. But just in terms of the operation of calling a game and all that, it was clean in week 1.
Did you find it gave you a little more freedom during the time the offense wasn't on the field?
Yeah. You get the iPad, and so it can, you can kind of see what's going on during the game and get a feel for exactly, what you're seeing. That is new. You didn't really have that before. You're really relying on the guys up in the box to give you information. Your eyes can sometimes deceive you down in the field. Now you're able to confirm what you think you saw, make adjustments, and have the communication to the players in that moment. So that was good. But the same thing with special teams, just being more involved with it with Rob, making sure the right guys are in there, what the calls are, and then being there on defense to just encourage the guys and be around them. And I did enjoy that part of it.
Dave Holmes, WSYX.
We just saw Western Michigan give Wisconsin a bit of a scare. I'm guessing, Ryan, that the talent gap we know is there, but I'm guessing that Western's guys, just given national TV and stuff, have probably seen your players play dozens of times over the past few years. I'm guessing until film, you guys have probably never watched a Western Michigan game. I'm just curious, in matches like this, do you see teams try to use that lack of familiarity against you? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure in the past there's been different things that teams have done, but ultimately, it comes down to, not your opponent, but you know, whether you're, you know, I've been there before on both sides of this, and you just got to come in and do what your guys know, and it comes back to your training in the end. So, you know, I mean, we know that there's certain things that we need to work on and improve on across the board, and that's what we're going to focus on. They do have a good team. I thought they played well. I think it is good for us to see them play another Big Ten opponent, just to compare what we're seeing. So that was good, and I thought they played well in that game. They were strong, and they have a good team.
Dylan Davis, Delaware Gazette.
Did you get close at all to playing 3 quarterbacks on Saturday? Was there a third guy that maybe you considered putting in the game, or was that never?
It never really got to that. We wanted to try to get Devin in there and try to get him some drives, and you did see us throw the ball down the field. And again, we're just, you know, we're trying to just run our offense and give him opportunities. So it wasn't like we just handed the ball off and got out of there. You know, we tried to get the offense moving. The goal was to score a touchdown. We made sure everybody in the huddle understood that. We didn't do it. So, you know, that was a little disappointing, but that's for everybody in that huddle, not just the quarterback. And, you know, if we have an opportunity to play 3, we will, but we didn't. You know, I felt like there was a point there where we did pull away there in the second half, and we were able to put Devin in the game. And, you know, there may be some games here we get Devin and thrown in a little bit earlier in the game. That wasn't the situation on Saturday.
If you find yourself in a position, who would that guy be? Do you feel strongly about who that third guy would be? Right?
Yeah, all those guys are working right now. So, you know, we need all those guys to compete, and we're going to roll them and just try to keep evaluating on a weekly basis.
Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Ryan, when you talk about being nowhere where we need to be, what are the biggest points of emphasis this week, areas that you feel like the team needs to improve this week?
It's just so many things across the board. You know, it's not just one area. You know, you can watch, you know, all four phases of special teams: kickoff, return, punt, return, and just identify things. You know, like for instance, on that play of a punt return, those plays go like 12 to 14 seconds. They're long plays. And I thought our guys busted their tail for like the first 8 to 10. And then for the last 4, like, how do you replicate that in practice? It's not as easy as you think. So like that's just one example. You know, there are many other examples in special teams. On offense and defense, each guy has their things that they need to improve on. You know, you go through the list of things. We go through that with the team. We watch the film on Sunday, and then we go. I'm not going to get into all the details of it, but just little things all across the board that we need to improve. And when you have a bunch of those things, it adds up. And, you know, we know where we need to be. And I think, you know, the foundation hasn't been built yet. You know, what we talked about, you know, the preseason and how that foundation was being laid. Well, we're still building that up and trying to figure out, you know, how the preseason translated to game 1. You know, again, there's some assumptions that were made, like, hey, you know, this guy's ready, this guy isn't, or, you know, maybe this guy's a little bit better than we thought he was, or this technique is not near where it needs to be, or, you know, maybe there's somebody in there who you thought they were in better shape than they were, and after about, you know, 20, 25 plays, their game started to fatigue, or maybe there's some guys in there who, you know, the stage was a little bit too big for them early on. They had to settle down. I mean, these are all the things, and without getting into the details of all the things that we talk about as a team, like those are the areas that we all have, and each player has their own things that they need to improve on, and then offense and defense are focusing on, you know, things as a group.
Austin Boards podcast.
Ryan, what did you think of Austin Serveld specifically, and is there a possibility that even when Donovan comes back that he could be still in the mix on the interior?
Yeah, I think so. He looked like a first-time starter in there who has real potential, has power, has strength. And I think once he got his feet underneath him and started playing a little bit and flushed through everything, then he played decent. He didn't grade out a champion, but he wasn't that far off. So that was good. And so now, you know, as we take the next step, you know, you'll see him play this weekend, and how much will be dependent on how healthy Donnie is going into the game. But like you said, even if Donnie is healthy, you know, you'd like to see him get in there and get some reps, because that was one of the positive things coming out, was that, you know, some of these guys got more reps than maybe they wouldn't have, or maybe they would have if, you know, we were a little bit more healthy or didn't have that virus go through. So that was good. But he needs to keep playing, and he is playing at starter level. But, you know, the expectation is that, you know, we do grade out a champion. He was a little short in this one, but for the first start, there was some encouraging things.
Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
And now that when you talked about Chip taking some of the play calling off your play, you mentioned sort of it helping Sunday through Friday of a week and being more involved in other areas. What is your schedule? What was it like last week? Just in the sort of lead up to games, are you in different meetings? Just sort of what's that all like?
Yeah, still very much involved with the offensive meetings and there, very, very much involved with all the special teams meetings with the staff, with the players. I meet with the defense on Sundays, and obviously we have staff meetings every day. But then there's also just a little bit of time, especially before practice, where, I get to kind of get my thoughts together, and I'm in my office and, I can watch, the opponent in all three phases and get my thoughts together on how I want to message the team, maybe call a player in, have some one-on-one conversation there, walk in the locker room, get down the hallway and make sure that, everybody's aligned across the building, those type of things that, when you're in there kind of on a day-to-day basis, grinding on the film, sometimes I can get away from you.
On game days, how involved are you when stuff's over the headset? Just how often are you chiming in involved? Is any sort of breakdown of how that all goes?
Yeah, I mean, the best way to describe it is, you could probably just imagine, Jim's calling it and Chip's calling it, and I'm kind of there having a conversation, not getting in the way of what's being called, but just making sure they understand the situation, down and distance, time, things that we're seeing down in the field. Maybe if someone's got big eyes, or maybe someone is looks good, like we're rocking off the ball, or we got to get these guys going. Maybe they're there's a little lull, or whatever those things are. You're just trying to communicate that to both sides, and then understand situations. What's coming in a third down, making sure that everybody's involved in the sidelines. Those type of things. Just game management.
It was a weighty decision to give it up. Do you feel good about weekend? I know it's early.
It's still early, yeah, I would say, but I think what it's allowed me to do, like we've talked about before, is just be more present with everybody, and so far it's been great to do, but still having say in what goes on in all three phases and every day.
Stefan Kreischnick, Cleveland.com.
Talk about the way Will has kind of grown this offseason from the spring to the fall of his understanding of the offense. From watching that first game, it seems like he got more comfortable as the game went on as well. How do you feel kind of the communication, kind of the understanding between him and Chip has developed of, Will kind of knowing what Chip is trying to accomplish before the play call's even made?
Yeah, I think it's good when you're near Will and the quarterbacks, and you can hear the voice in the helmet. You realize that's a different thing. I mean, to have a voice in your head while you're on the field is something to get used to. And so we worked hard on it in practice to get used to that. And that is a good sign when a play is called and you already know exactly what it is. The good news now is he can tell him why he called it. You can give him little bits of information here and there. You can make sure that he understands the situation. He understands, the down and distance, or maybe give a tip to one of the guys in the huddle. So it's something new, but so far it's been good, and it seems like they're gelling well.
Bill Minowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Can you name one thing that was a pleasant surprise from Saturday, and maybe one thing that you didn't think would be an issue that proved to be an issue as concerning?
I think the punt return was better. You could see that. I would say that was good, and I was disappointed with the first kickoff return. I thought we had an opportunity to pop that, and we did not execute that well enough, and so ultimately that's on the coaches. So that was disappointing for sure. We'd like to have got out to a faster start. Obviously, but was pleased how we came out in the second half, and really, I think the second half was 35-3. I mean, that's what we're looking for.
I'm curious about the iPad thing. How much of a difference does that really make, having that access?
Yeah, it's significant. Because everyone gets to really get real information and see it for exactly how it happened, and that doesn't happen up until we were able to have access to these. So it really does help, and it really helps with the players, making sure that they see it and they're getting communicated on what they're dealing with.
Take us home, Tim Bay. Letterman Row.
Take us home. It's pretty funny. The thing that stood out, that was a come from behind win, by the way, on Saturday. And what kind of stood out to me just watching is how businesslike kind of things went with you guys on the sideline. Maybe it wasn't, but like you said, in your role now as like a real head coach, I mean, being able to roam and look in people's eyes and stuff, what did you see about this team that you really like, during that, as y'all were getting your act together aspect of things?
No, I think the first thing is that we have to understand that, like, this is a long road to where we're going. And, it's easy to sometimes hear the noise of down the road or what's coming. And what you have to do is you just have to focus on right now. You have to be in the present. And you'll hear almost every coach in America say the same thing, but it's true. And that's why they say it. And, we're not just going to go in there and win the game in the first quarter. It doesn't work that way. We have to stay focused on each play, each drive, each game, stay focused on the now, ignore everything else. The good praise, the criticism, any of those things are out of the way. And that's everybody involved. And when we come into the stadium, like, we have to have a mindset that, like, we get to play this game. Like, this is fun. Like, this is a chance to play. Fun is winning. Fun is executing. Fun is scoring touchdowns. Fun is getting stops. Like, that's what it's all about. And that's why we're playing this game. And so, and that, you feed off the crowd, and, all of a sudden, I think sometimes, it's easy early in the season to, be looking down the road at what's going on. And then all of a sudden, you can find yourself in a little bit of a lull. That's not going to happen. It didn't happen. We responded well, and we played really well in the second half. So we're looking to get a fast start on Saturday and, get out there with great energy and be in the moment and just, maximize every single play the best you can. And so we've got to make sure that that's important. And so, we'll keep reiterating that this week.
2022, you had a veteran quarterback who had played the previous year, CJ. I don't want to go through the litany of veteran quarterbacks, but as you're watching the game from your vantage point Saturday, are you looking at it on the field like, Will had some plays he'd like to have back, but did you see a guy who had played before? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
from a command standpoint.
Yeah, he's played. You can tell he's got his demeanor that he's played before. He just hasn't played in this offense before. So there's things about the offense that he's still picking up. So it's a little bit of both. But the command, being in the stadium, not having big eyes and things like that. I thought the timing on the two touchdown throws in particular to Jeremiah were excellent. I thought the timing throw to Carnell was really well done, and the only way that you're throwing things on time like that is if you've done the preparation and you've mentally played that play in your head over and over again. That's a sign of a good quarterback. There's other things that came up that, is somebody that just hasn't played in the offense a bunch. So we got to get him these reps. And, but in terms of the command and the way he handled himself, he looked experienced out there, and even the scrambles were big, and we got to continue to take care of the ball. And that's the most important thing here. Yeah, you got it. Thanks.
Q&As with Chip Kelly. Thanks, Coach. Thanks for being here. We'll open it up with second row right, Bill Landis, Kings of the North.
Hey, Chip, what did you learn, I guess, about Will and his ability to kind of be like a playmaker outside of structure throughout spring and the summer, but especially on Saturday?
Well, if you had watched him watched him at K-State, I think you could see that, he obviously can make plays with both his arm and his legs. I think he showed some of that on Saturday, but those are things we were aware of before we actually played on Saturday, that I think he's a versatile guy. I've talked about it before. He can really move for a big guy. And he has a really good understanding of football. He's got a lot of experience, and I think that kind of shown through for him. He still needs to get experience in what we're doing, and that's part of the process. Playing the game of quarterback is probably the one position that's so totally different from a practice standpoint to a game standpoint, because no matter where you are, whether it's in the NFL or high school or in college, you don't get hit in practice, and in a game you do. So it's a different kind of mindset for him. But I think we saw some of the things he can do, and hopefully we can build upon that going into week 2.
Fourth row right, Andrew Gilbert, Cleveland.com.
Chip, you had quarterback carries, I think it was Quinshawn and Trayvon 13 to 10. Is that about where you want to be every week, or is it going to fluctuate?
43 and 40 would be better. But I don't think we're going to get that many snaps in a game. So Carlos does a great job. Carlos Lachlan, our running back coach, of just keeping those guys fresh and who's in and who's out. And so there wasn't a set plan, but, hopefully we run the ball a little bit more. And those numbers are up for both of those guys.
Third row left, Andy Anders, 11 Warriors.
And sticking with the running game, Travion had a really efficient day. Quinshawn, there were some inconsistencies on the plays where Quinshawn carried the ball. And I get there's a lot that goes into that beyond the running back. But is there something to a running back taking time to develop chemistry within a scheme, learning sort of the timing of when to close?
Yeah, I mean, to your point, yes. But I thought Q did a really nice job in terms of what we had designed. Obviously, he can't he's not blocking for himself. So, sometimes if something breaks down before he gets an opportunity to make a read, he has to adjust and work off of that. So, but I think there's a point to that of getting the chemistry, getting the feel. Is our scheme slightly different than what he ran at his other school? There are some nuances to that, being behind the quarterback and not offset from the quarterback. How much stack did they run when, at his other school? So just getting comfortable in that. And I think that's the process that will continue to go on here at the beginning of the season.
Front row middle, Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Chip, how much did you unveil in terms of the run game and all the concepts? How much did you maybe keep under wraps because it was the first game? How much did you learn about what your players can and maybe can't do?
Question one. I don't think there's an unveiling or not unveiling. I think everything we do is just game plan specific for who we're playing that week based upon their personnel and scheme that they deploy. So when someone says, hey, you didn't run this, well, maybe that's not compatible to their scheme or to their personnel. So it wasn't like we held anything back or didn't hold anything back. That's the game plan that we put together to go against Akron. And I think I learned as the game got along, we were probably a little shaky early. Everybody, we had to drop early, kind of offset. Will started, 6 of 16, but then finished 11 of 12. So I think once he got settled, everybody started to get settled and get into the rhythm of the game. You could start to see a rhythm develop in there because I think we were kind of off rhythm wise early in the game. But I think as we started to get moving, especially those couple drives, 3-play drive to open up the second half, starting to get some consistent runs and some consistent pass plays. I think when we get into a rhythm, it can be a really good offense.
Front row left, Dave Biddle, 24/7 Sports.
Chip, but when was the last time you coached from the press box? And how did that go on?
2008 was the last time when I was a coordinator.
How did that go on Saturday? What'd you think?
We practiced it, so every time we've gone to the stadium, we've had an opportunity to do that. So kind of got settled and familiar up there. It's a great view. I think as the games get into October and November, people are going to be a little bit jealous of where I get to be on game day and not on the sideline. But the communication system, so you're not right next to the coaching staff on the field, but we had no issues from a communication standpoint, the ability to communicate that. So it was good. It's a different perspective. I think you can see the game better from up top, and I think you can feel the game better from the field. And I don't think that'll ever change. So, but you can't because you can't be in both places.
Zip line that you talked about in the story.
I did talk about a zip line, but I don't think they've implemented that yet. We got to get Elon Musk on that, or it's one of those real tech guys.
Right behind him, Jeff Gilbert, Press Pros.
We talked to Ryan about not calling plays and being the guy just contributing what he could.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel like he did with that and just being in that new thing for him?
Yeah, he was great. There were a couple of suggestions that we ran and we're good. And hey, let's get to this. And okay, that's exactly it. I was maybe between one or two, but felt really good when he felt really good about it. So, the communication in between what they're doing, what we think they're doing, changing speeds, changing tempos, some of those things. I thought he did a really good job. But he's involved with the defense with Jim, and he's involved in the special teams with all the special teams guys too. So, I understand that role because I've been in it. Sometimes you can't get to the special teams and you can't get to defense because you're thinking about what your next series is going to be like offensively and spending time with your offensive coaches. So, but he really contributed a lot on Saturday offensively.
Right behind him, Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
For Tegra and Austin, both getting in there their first starts, just how do you feel like they played up front?
I thought they both did a really good job, for their first extensive playing time up there. And that was part of us feeling our way through the beginning of the game. It was Will's first game, Austin's first game, Tegra's first game, JJ's first game, Will Kismerik's first game, Q's first game. There's a lot of guys first time stepping on the field in the horseshoe, and that's different. You can go in there as much as you want from a practice standpoint. and go against our defense in there. But when you get in there and there's 102,000, that's you kind of catch yourself looking around, not looking at the field, but looking around the field, just because of how amazing that experience is. So I think once those guys got settled, we started to get into a pretty good rhythm. But there was a lot of guys that it was their first game, and that's to be expected.
Being JJ's first game, what gave you the confidence to drop as many plays for him as you did in his first game?
I've been around here since March, and he's been doing a lot of really, really good things. So I don't think that was a surprise to anybody that he's going to be a featured guy in this offense. And we obviously saw it, besides that first drop, the rest of the game, I thought he played really, really well.
Right next door, Tom Moore, Buckeye Huddle.
Chip, we've heard a lot about the helmet communications. We haven't heard a lot about the specifics of what happens and when. So can you walk us through a play ends, you're figuring out presumably what the next play call is.
Mm-hmm.
When do you start talking to Will in his helmet? When do you have to let him start communicating that to the other guys? How much time do you typically have to maybe look at what the defense is doing and maybe point something else out to him? What is that 30 seconds or whatever it is like?
Yeah, well, you have from when the previous play ended till up to 15 seconds on the play clock. So, but you're not talking for that entire time. You're making decisions on what are we now? We're 2nd and 5. Where's the ball? It's on the left hash. What play are we going to call? And then we're trying to get that information to Will as quick as possible so he can digest it. If we're huddling, and we huddled a few times on Saturday, then he needs to communicate that to our guys. If it's a signal system, we make sure we tell everybody that we're using a signal on this play. Then Will has an opportunity to maybe survey the defense a little bit longer and get a chance to see that. Then there could be a check within that call. So the play could have come in as 1 play, 2 plays, or 3 plays. There's some 3-play sets that come in, and then Will has to make a decision at the line of scrimmage, what's the best play for us, and get us into that right play. So and it's not a conversation because he can't talk back. But we try to be as brief as possible so that he gets as much information as he can, and then he can operate. We didn't do any check with me's where we were making checks from the box, and he was just listening and waiting for us. That didn't occur. We have some plays in our system where we'll give him 2 or 3 plays at a time, and then he selects what the best play is. And in all of our checks, I think he did a really good job of that. But really, it's just giving him that information, so it's really not a conversation, and then letting him go operate with it. And then we talk extensively between series of, what did you see here? Why did you go to that? And with the video, you can kind of confirm that he saw what he saw and understands why he called what he called.
Austin Ward, the podcast.
Chip, do you guys have a nickname for the quarterback sneak package?
A nickname?
Like brotherly shove for the Eagles?
Yeah, no, we don't. Well, I'll leave that up to you guys.
Okay, we can do whatever we want. Great. What is it that would make that a meaningful weapon for you guys in short yardage situations?
Well, you're just trying to gain a yard. Usually when you're using that, I don't think it's when you're farther out than that. But I think the technique and the mechanics of it, and I think when you study the teams that were really good on it, Philadelphia being one of them, their success rate is pretty high. When someone's doing something at a really high success rate, then you try to figure out why they're doing it, how they're doing it, and can you, with the players that you have, implement that. So there's some positives to it. We're 1 for 1 on it. So as long as we continue to stay above 90%, then I think we'll continue to do it.
4th row, 5th row, right, Spencer Holbrook, Portland row.
Chip, Ryan was really complimentary of the game that you called after the game. Everything that was going on, first time being in the box, that's 15 years. How do you feel like you called it? Do you feel like you called it a good game?
Nah, I thought we were just okay. I thought we could have executed a little bit better, especially early. Sometimes you get caught up in, are we really diverse and giving them a lot of different looks? And then I think really it's got to be focused more on our ability to execute, what's a better operation to execute. So you got to be really self-aware when you're done. So, to go 4 plays on the first drive and be out, well, that's not good. Everybody can tell you that. So not overly excited about that first drive. The first drive at the end, the drive at the beginning of the second half was Will and JJ just made a great play. That wasn't like a great play call. That wasn't like, oh my God, we really dialed one up and there was a guy running clean down the field. It's we'll put the ball up with enough depth and air on it, and JJ made a great play on it, and then we scored a play later. So that was a 3-play drive, but that wasn't like, hey, we were dicing them up on that play. So there's always things you can do better, and I think you're always going to be critical. And it's about execution, and is everybody, not just the quarterback, but is everybody executing at what you need them to execute on? And if they're not, then what is the reason why? Were they confused with the call? Did we give them too many options? Did we not paint a really clear picture for them of what it's supposed to be like when they get out there and run the play? So we can be better, and I think it's a growth for all of us. It's a growth for our staff being together for the first time in game-like situations, and for the players themselves. So, there's that old adage that the biggest jump is from game 1 to game 2. So that gets you excited, when you get back in here on Sunday and start the game plan for Western Michigan.
Final questions, Tim May, front row.
Oh, thanks, Jerry. What is the communication like, the conversations like with Will, a guy who has played before? You understand what I'm saying? He's a veteran quarterback. I know he's at another school and another kind of offense and stuff, but what has that been like with him over the last several weeks, but especially going into a game when you present him sort of the game plan or your ideas and stuff?
Yeah. They're really congruous. I think everybody is on the same page, and I think he knows what he does really well, and I think we have a really good understanding of what he likes and what he can do. We're also aware of the weapons that are around him, and part of a quarterback's job is you're really the point guard. He does not have to be Steph Curry, where he's got to hit every shot himself. He's got a lot of really good players around him. So his job is to get the ball in the playmaker's hands. And that's part of how it's designed here. And I think he really relishes that. He enjoys that. I think anybody would be excited if you have that trio of receivers or those 2 running backs behind them, and that offensive line in front of them could be excited about playing quarterback here. So it's been really good. And I think he's mature. I think Will's got a real maturity to himself where he can tell you what he likes and what he doesn't like, and that kind of occurs during the beginning of the week. Is we'll put some things in, and you can tell maybe he's not sure about something at the beginning. Well, let's run it. Let's see what it looks like in practice on Tuesday. Let's look like some things we put in on Sunday night when we were let's take a look at it. Why are we doing this? We want to get it on film and get a chance to talk about it. But he's been really good because there is a maturity, and he's played a lot of football where he can kind of give his feedback in terms of what he likes, because it never matters. It doesn't matter at all what the coach likes, because we're not playing. I want to know what he likes and what he feels really comfortable in, because that's what he's going to execute to the best.
Yeah, there's a million questions. I want to ask one other quickie. Did you find yourself Saturday when Quinshon's in the game thinking, I'm going to call this because Quinshon's in the game, when Trey's in the game, I'm going to call this because Trey's in the game? You understand what I'm saying from a running
I do understand what you're saying. Yeah, we really don't. I feel like the 2 of those guys can both run inside the tackles. They're both tough, hard-nosed, physical runners, but they both have speed and athletic ability to get to the perimeter. So, they both had perimeter sweep runs called for them that they ran. They both ran inside the tackles and inside zone and counter. So the unique thing about both those guys is sometimes you have 2 different type backs. I think with both those guys, you can call a similar game plan. And I think James Peoples fits into the same category. So when James got in there, I thought he was really productive in the small amount of snaps that he had. But for a true freshman to come in here and play like James did, and we think he's got a really bright future here. But it doesn't change with him in there either. Sometimes you may have a 5'7", 160-pound guy when you got to do a lot of free release and not pass protecting. Obviously Q can pick up, and then Trey did an unbelievable job in pass pickup the other day. So you don't really have to change what your play calls are depending on what, not only the first 2, but even when the 3rd running back's in the game.
Can I ask one really quick? How much more of a hallelujah?
Ask him. He's in charge. I got no juice.
How much of a hallelujah moment is it? You really, Akron did some things that maybe you weren't expecting, or they hadn't shown on video. Maybe that's what Will pointed out, a couple of blitzes, things like that. But to have a video like Western Michigan having a game under their belt and fresh video of their 2024 defense, how much of a
that helps
start is
because if you ask Wisconsin, I think Western Michigan changed defensively from the year before, really drastically. They were a 3-3 stack team, and they did not play 3-3 stack against Wisconsin. So now I haven't talked to the Wisconsin coaches, but I think it's not what they did when they were at Louisiana Tech either. So you got to go off of what they do for film, but you have to be prepared for everything. It's still 11 on 11, so I think they can draw up some things and do some different things, and they may catch you with something, but there's still a dynamic to how they're going to do it. There's usually 4 down guys and a couple linebackers and some DBs. So we're not going to try to overcomplicate the game too much if we can't.
Coach, thank you very much.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Chip. Thanks. Expect Will Howard here momentarily. Yeah. Is every game in this TBA now? Is that you literally we 12 or 6. So we'll know the Marshall game time probably sometime Saturday night.
Do you know it right now, Garrett?
Been told, you know, what to expect.
We slipped you a cool 20.
9 a.m.
Well,
Good.
Thanks again.
Yeah, no problem. All right. Who should we start out with for Will Howard today?
Oops.
Oh, Andy Baxter, fourth row right, Letterman row.
Cool.
Yeah, well, Chip Kelly just said, you know, when you get settled in a game, everyone gets settled in the offense. Do you feel that, first of all? Or how important is it for you to be settled quick for a fast start for this game?
Yeah, I think that's huge. I think, just being the quarterback of the team, being the, kind of the leader, I guess, if you will, of the offense. Everyone kind of is looking to you. I understand that responsibility. I feel like, being the quarterback, you kind of have that responsibility of kind of being the, we go as I go, and everyone, I want to be that guy that everyone can look to, in the moments and be ready to roll. If they feel that I'm locked in and that I'm settled in, that should be a green light for everybody else. And, the more that I can help facilitate that and just, practice what I preach and be about it and settle in early. And I think the quicker that we can do that.
Over to the right, Adam King, WBNS 10 TV.
You've had a chance to look at the film a little bit. Kind of what were you most proud of yourself on Saturday, and where did you see the most room for growth?
I think once I got settled in, like you guys said, I think I was the most impressed with my decisiveness. And, I feel like once I did make decisions, I pulled the trigger and I was ready. And even, sometimes I didn't make the perfect decision, but, if you're on time and you're decisive with it, then that can kind of make up for mistakes sometimes. But that's obviously not the world I want to live in. And, I want to make good decisions so I don't have to get bailed out by being decisive. And that's, I think, the biggest thing is just ironing out, some decisions and looking at, how we can start a little faster, how I can get into a rhythm a little quicker, and just playing clean, and starting out a little cleaner and not having to, I think we worked through the struggles that we had early. I don't want to say struggles, but, some of the sloppiness that we had early, we worked through it and it was good, but we don't want to have to do that, every game. We want to be able to start fast and not have to work through adversity if we don't have to.
Third row right, Dylan Davis, Delaware Gazette.
Just what have you seen about Western Michigan on film as you got a chance to look at it this week, and what stands out to you defensively?
I think they got a new defensive coordinator. He came from Louisiana Tech, but I think they're doing some different stuff, than they did down there. Pretty standard. It's not going to try and fool you a lot with what they're doing. I feel like, on our eyes, but they're pretty good at what they do. And, I think they did a pretty good job against Wisconsin last week. They fought hard. I think they have some decent players, some pretty good players inside. One of their corners isn't a bad player. I think this week we got to, reframe our minds and just attack them however they give us, opportunities.
Deep right, Jeremy Birmingham, the podcast.
Well, a couple weeks ago, you talked about not needing to be Superman, right? And then there was one play on Saturday where I wasn't sure if you were trying to be Superman or if you just realized you had a team full of Superman. And so you decided that I'm going to just try this and throw it to Travion behind you. When you look at that play coming out of it, what was your thought process? And where do you feel like, how do you avoid that, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, that is something that I can't do. I mean, just putting the ball in harm's way. We talked about it, and I think it was just, again, me trying to make something happen. When
things don't go the right way. But it's just having the wherewithal to know when to try and make plays, and then also be smart enough to not put the ball in harm's way, or make decisions that could put the ball like I said, in harm's way. And for me, it's just in that situation, I just got to tuck the ball, go down, and and eat it, because at that point, they got us. They showed a boundary pressure. They brought one from the field. Good for them. But at the end of the day, I just got to minimize those errors. Putting the ball in harm's way, and just taking care of it. And because at the end of the day, possessions and especially in that middle eight, taking care of the ball is really important.
Fourth row middle, Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Well, Chip was just talking to us about the helmet communication, and I guess I hadn't thought about it this way, but he mentioned he can talk to you, you can't talk back.
Yeah.
So I'm curious how you handle that, being that it's a new thing. I assume you guys have lots of conversations on the sideline. And then when he gives you multiple plays, just your ability to decipher which one is the right one, how you felt you did with that.
Well, I mean, we've been working with it, since spring, so it's not really a new thing that we have had to deal with. I mean, obviously this year it's new, but we've been doing it for, pretty much the whole time I've been here. So, it is new, but I think, for it being the first game, I think we did pretty well with it. I obviously can't speak back to him, so he doesn't know, when I've heard it or what I've heard, or, if it cuts out or anything like that. But we're working through those. We have hand signals. If I, throw my hands up, I can't hear you. It's just like little things like that. But at the end of the day, it's just kind of working through the progression of it. And I think it was pretty smooth week one. I think we were able to have a little dialogue, on the headset. And I think it's really, really beneficial for us. I think, we can continue to move on and keep using it in a good way going forward.
Right next door, Tony Girdman, Buckeye Huddle.
Will, you got all of these 5-star NFL players around you in your first game as a Buckeye. You're the offensive player of the game. What was that like for you?
Yeah, that was really nice, but I really don't pay attention to that stuff. I was just worried about grading out a champion for my team and getting that win, and that's the thing that matters the most to me. Obviously, it's an honor to be named that and whatnot, but all that matters to me is getting a win in that win column. And at the end of the day, if I do my job well enough, then we should be able to do that every week, because we got the guys to do it. We just got to be the hardest playing team in America, and and do my job and grade out a champ.
Did you grade out a champion?
Yeah.
Player of the week, front row right, Austin Moore.
Will, you referenced that for the game. There were so many firsts for you, even though you've been playing quarterback this level for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Doing this at Ohio State for the first time, and routines, traditions, all that stuff. Do you, now that that's out of the way, does this Tuesday feel like you're already into a routine? Does it feel different than a week ago at this time?
100%. I think for me, it's just getting into the rhythm and doing it once. Obviously you can't replicate doing it until you actually do it. I think now that I've done it once, and now that we've had, obviously before going into week one, we kind of had a week that was sort of like a game week, but it's not actually like it until you get into it. And this is the most normal that our schedule's been, for a in-season week. So I think settling into the routine and, knowing what I'm going to watch, what days, and what, when I'm going to meet with coach, when I'm going to do my own thing, just kind of getting into that rhythm. And I think this week I'm able to settle in a little more. And I think finding what worked last week, what didn't work, how to change it, how to, manipulate it in a way that can, be the best for me and, for the staff and for everyone, is I think kind of what we're working through right now. But, I think going into this week, for me, it was a little bit like an away game, almost like my first home game. But now it's like, okay, I'm settled in. This is the new norm for me now. And I'm like, all right, this is home now. And, I'm settled in. So it's good.
Deep left, Jeff Gilbert, Press Pros.
I know you're comfortable being a leader on the field and the huddle and all that, but this role here, you come out and talk to us all the time now at this place. How's this feel? Do you like this? Do you dread this? What's this like?
No, I like it. I like talking to you guys and spreading the news of the Buckeyes and whatnot. And I know that there are some people that don't, like doing this stuff. And if I can be that guy for the team, be the face, and talk to you guys, then I'll be happy to do that. I feel like being the quarterback, you kind of have to be that representative, and good or bad, I'm going to show up and talk to you guys and answer your questions, and that's what I want to be here and do. I appreciate what you guys do for us. I do, and I want to make sure that I give that back to y'all. But yeah, it's fun, man. I like doing this stuff. It's all good. It's all good. Yeah.
All right, last question, Bill or Joey, either one of you.
Shaking each
I
other
tried to
off.
defer and be nice. When you watched the tape, when you watched the video, was there one thing that struck you that maybe you didn't realize or didn't see on a Saturday?
No, I don't think so. I think there were more opportunities for me to use my legs than I did use, and then I thought. Looking back at it, I'm like, dang, I could have gone out there and ran maybe a little more. And that's maybe one thing I'm a little, rather than maybe throwing the ball away or throwing a contested ball, like, hey, just go get what I can with my legs. Maybe that was one thing that maybe stood out. But for the most part, especially with the film on the sideline now, I feel like coming out of the game, like I know what I did well and what I didn't do well. And I'm like even before I've watched the film, I'm like, okay, I know what plays I need to watch and want to watch again, because I've gotten the opportunity to watch it already on the field. And I know what plays I messed up on and what I need to work on. But looking back after it, I think that was one thing that maybe I could work on. I like it a lot. We used to do it in high school when I was in high school, and I'm a big visual learner. Like, it's obviously really hard to just remember the play. But being able to see it and look at it, because when you're in the moment, sometimes things are going fast and, you feel like you see something it looks like something else. But, I think now, the older that I am, I think it's a lot of it's just confirming looks and, hey, where was this guy lined up pre-snap, to show that they go to this coverage or, whatever it may be, just looking at stuff like that. I think it's really helpful, and I really enjoyed it.
Will, thank you very much.
Thank you guys. Go Bucks.
David?